In 1959, 9 hikers vanished in the Ural Mountains. Their tent was discovered sliced open from the inside. Their bodies, found scattered in the snow, had bizarre, crushing injuries. For over 60 years, wild theories about Yetis, aliens, and secret Soviet weapons tried to explain what happened. But now, new science finally reveals the shocking truth. For more than half a century, the fate of 9 hikers in the Ural Mountains has been one of history's most chilling mysteries. They were young, they were experienced, and they were prepared. But on a remote, windswept mountain, something went catastrophically wrong. They fled their only shelter in the dead of night, meeting a violent end that seemed to defy all logic. The official Soviet investigation in May 1959 concluded with a deeply unsatisfying phrase: the hikers died from a spontaneous force that humans were unable to overcome. This vague explanation just fueled a firestorm of speculation, turning the tragedy into a modern legend filled with conspiracies. But what if the truth isn't stranger than fiction, but just more complex? For decades, the clues just didn't add up. But what if the pieces of the puzzle were always there, just waiting for science to catch up? Thanks to new research, advanced computer simulations, and follow-up expeditions, the real story is finally taking shape. And the explanation is more terrifying than any conspiracy, because it shows how a rare combination of natural forces can create a perfect, inescapable nightmare. Before they were a mystery, they were just 9 friends on an adventure. The group, from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a talented engineering student and a serious outdoorsman. These weren't amateurs. They were seasoned, Grade 2 certified hikers aiming for the toughest certification, Grade 3. This trip through the northern Urals in the dead of winter was meant to be the ultimate test of their skill. The team was a snapshot of bright, ambitious Soviet youth. There was Yuri Yudin, who experienced hikers would usually seek shelter below the tree line. But a storm was rolling in, and visibility was dropping. They made camp, ate, and prepared for the night. It was the last diary entry they'd ever write. When the group missed their scheduled check-in on February 12th, no one panicked right away. Delays happen. But as days bled into weeks, a search was launched. On February 26th, a volunteer search team found the campsite, and what they saw wasn't a typical accident. It was a chilling enigma. The tent was half buried in snow and unnervingly quiet. The most alarming detail? It had been sliced open with a knife from the inside. This was a clear sign of a desperate, panicked escape. Inside the tent, all their gear, heavy coats, boots, food, and money, was left behind. It made no sense. Fleeing into the Siberian night, with temperatures around -25°C, in socks or barefoot, wasn't an escape. It was a death sentence. A trail of footprints led from the tent, some from bare feet, some from socks, down the slope toward the woods over a kilometer away. The tracks were orderly at first, suggesting the group left together, but their state of undress screamed terror. What could possibly have scared them so badly that they'd abandon their only shelter to face certain death from the cold? The discovery of the tent was just the first piece of a story that was about to get much, much darker. The discovery of the hikers themselves is what turned a mystery into a horror story. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, were found at the edge of the forest under a large cedar tree, stripped down to their underwear. Nearby were the remnants of a small fire. The branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, as if someone had frantically tried to climb it, maybe to see the tent or watch for a threat. Their cause of death was hypothermia. The next 3, Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin, were. The evidence was a mess of contradictions. They fled in panic but walked away calmly. They froze to death but were partially undressed. They had bone-shattering injuries with no external signs of trauma. The Soviet investigation, unable to make sense of it, closed the case, blaming that unknown, compelling natural force. This non-answer created a vacuum that was quickly filled with theories. Cold War paranoia fueled the most popular ideas. Low-level radiation found on some of their clothes and reports of strange orange spheres in the sky led to speculation about secret weapons tests. But investigators found no crater, no shrapnel, no signs of an explosion. The radiation was plausibly explained by atmospheric fallout or thorium from camping lantern mantles, and it wasn't lethal. Other theories went paranormal. Were they silenced by the men in black? Were the orange spheres UFOs? Could a Russian Yeti be the culprit? The Yeti idea was floated to explain the crushing force, but with no non-human tracks or signs of a struggle, it was quickly dismissed. A more scientific theory suggested infrasound, low-frequency sound from wind patterns that can cause irrational panic. It's an interesting idea, but it couldn't explain the massive physical trauma. Then there was the avalanche theory. This was one of the first ideas considered back in 1959, but it was also met with heavy skepticism. The slope wasn't considered steep enough. The hikers were experts who would have avoided such a spot, and the search party found no obvious signs of a slide. For over 60 years, the avalanche theory seemed like another dead end. The mystery, it appeared, was destined to remain unsolved. For decades, the world was left to guess. But what if the answer wasn't a conspiracy, but was hidden in the science of the mountain itself? In 2019, the Russian Prosecutor General's office reopened the case. Their conclusion, announced in 2020, was an avalanche. But that was met with skepticism because it didn't explain how an avalanche. To shelter their tent from the wind, they cut into the snowpack on the slope. This common practice critically weakened the snow layer above them. Second, the mountain's shape was deceptive. While the average slope was gentle, new drone expeditions have confirmed the area has hidden steps and steeper inclines, reaching up to 30 degrees, more than enough for an avalanche. Third, the weather. That night, powerful katabatic winds were blasting down the mountain, carrying and dumping fresh snow. For hours after the hikers fell asleep, this wind was piling snow onto the weakened slab right above their tent. And that leads to the fourth, most crucial piece, the delay. The avalanche didn't happen right away. It happened hours later, in the middle of the night. Game and Puzrin's models showed it could have taken 9 to 13 hours for the wind to load enough snow to cause the slab to crack and release. This explains why everyone was asleep and undressed when disaster struck. Using advanced simulations, including animation tech developed for the movie Frozen to model snow physics, the scientists proved that a block of snow, not huge but incredibly heavy, would have slid right onto the middle of the tent. This slab avalanche theory is the key that unlocks every bizarre element of the mystery. The tent cut from inside. The slab of snow didn't bury the tent. It pancaked the middle section, pinning the hikers under hundreds of pounds of solid snow. In the dark, being crushed, their only way out was to slash through the fabric with a knife. The lack of clothes. They were asleep and jolted awake by a crushing weight. It was pure claustrophobic panic. They fled on impulse. There was no time to find coats and boots in a collapsed dark tent. The bizarre injuries. This is the most compelling part. A powder avalanche suffocates. A hard sliding slab of snow hits like a car. The models, combined with data from old General Motors car crash studies, showed this slab would cause the exact severe chest and skull fractures seen on the victims, without leaving major external wounds. They were crushed by the initial impact while lying on the tent floor. The scattered bodies. The hikers who weren't badly hurt managed to pull their friends out and escape. In the chaos of a pitch-black blizzard, they fled downwards, away from the danger of another slide. Disoriented and underclothed, they made it to the relative shelter of the woods. The cedar tree and the return. The first two victims found by the cedar tree were desperately trying to start a fire. The broken branches show they were trying to gather wood or get a look back at the tent. When no second slide came, the strongest members, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, made the heroic but fatal decision to try to go back for supplies. They succumbed to hypothermia on the exposed slope. The ravine and the final injuries. The four most severely injured hikers were likely unable to move far. The others may have helped them to the ravine to shelter from the wind. There, their devastating internal injuries and the cold finally killed them. As for Lyudmila Dubinina's missing tongue, that gruesome detail which fueled so many dark theories is almost certainly the result of natural decomposition and scavenging by small animals, since her body lay in running water for 3 months before being found. This scientific explanation is a testament to how modern problem-solving can unravel a decades-old mystery. It's a fascinating look at history, forensics, and physics coming together. If you find these kinds of deep dives into solving the unsolvable as compelling as I do, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. You'll be the first to know when we tackle another of history's great enigmas. The real story of the Dyatlov Pass incident isn't about aliens or secret plots. It's a story about a fatal alignment of circumstances, how the natural world, under a very specific set of conditions, can create a mystery that seems to defy reason. The new evidence shows the hikers didn't act irrationally. Faced with an impossible situation, they acted heroically, fighting for each other until the very end. The avalanche theory, once doubted, now provides a powerful and scientifically supported explanation for the evidence that baffled investigators for generations. It may not be as sensational as a UFO, but in its own way, the science is far more terrifying. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most compelling force is nature itself. The mystery of Dyatlov Pass may finally be solved, but the tragic story of the 9 who died on Dead Mountain will and should haunt our memory forever. It's a powerful testament to both the unforgiving wilderness and the power of science to shine a light into the darkest of unknowns.